He is not crazy. That is an excuse. He is wicked and he is evil.
Him saying that is actually protected under the First Amendment. Hate speech
actually,
is protected under...
That's the point. It's not. You don't even know. You don't know enough about your own First Amendment.
I'm not saying that I support hate, but people have a right.
So if a white man
hateful...
walked up to you and said, "Hey, get out the way," you support that?
I support his right to say it.
What is funny about beating up a woman?
People like you are the fucking problem.
This interview, respectfully, will be on your highlight career, living in infamy.
You're running around with someone that's literally a war criminal wanted by the ICC, and then you're over here calling for censorship. I'm tired of anti-Semitism. I'm tired of racism.
You are a Jew hater, and you have a right to be a Jew hater.
Fuck your feelings, dude.
Free speech means the right to express ideas and opinions without fear of censorship or sanction. It applies equally to speech, which many consider deeply offensive. In fact, that's arguably when it's most important. Otherwise, the loudest and most powerful voices have total control over ideas, and they have the ability to crush dissent. But there are limits to free speech, even under the First Amendment. There's no First Amendment right to share child pornography, threaten individuals, or incite violence. Rapper Ye, hereafter, I'm going to call him Kanye West. I'm done with calling him Ye. Unleashed a wild flood of anti-Semitic posts on X this weekend. He was misogynist, he was racist, he was frankly disgusting. He talked about violence against women, he talked about violence against Jewish people and enslaving them, he talked about loving Hitler, he talked about white people and Jewish people who are different and the Jews are always going to steal. Now, whether this endless vile tirade was tantamount to incitement of violence against Jewish people is, I guess, open to debate. He certainly wanted people to think very disparagingly of them, if not hate them. I would argue that identifying as a Nazi alone implies that, yeah, maybe he shares a mindset of people who literally exterminated millions of Jews. Not to mention his statement that you have to put Jews in their place and make them into your slaves, something that he then followed up with this. He said, Jews were better as slaves. You have to put Jews in their place and make them into your slaves. He then said, sometimes you have to do it like the pharaohs. Make your Jews work for you, but watch them as close as you can. Whip your Jews. Whip your Jews as you treat them like slaves. What does that mean? Is that ambiguous? Is that freedom of speech? Or is that a clarion call to commit acts of violence against Jewish people? What seems crystal clear is that Kanye West was in clear violation of X's own rules on hateful conduct. The platform under Elon Musk has suspended more than 5 million accounts since he took over. It censored Kanye's account yesterday as not suitable for work when he posted legal pornography. And Musk has previously banned Kanye West entirely for posting a swastika interlaced with the Star of David, which he said was an incitement to violence. So why was Kanye allowed to spend the whole weekend unloading shocking abuse on Jewish people before apparently leaving voluntarily? And more broadly, just what the hell is going on with this idiot? Well, joining me now to debate all this, host of the Fresh and Fit podcast, Myron, the rapper and podcaster Zuby, America's rabbi and author of Holocaust Holiday, Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, and the commentator and YouTuber Choke No Joke. Okay, let me start with you, Myron, because you and I got into a little Twitter exchange yesterday about free speech. And it seems to me, with Kanye and this tirade that's went on for days, there are two debates to be had. One is whether what he was doing was contrary to X's own rules by the same definition that they have suspended millions of accounts. And I posted a graph showing why people got suspended, a lot of it for harassment, hateful conduct, and so on. So I think there's literally no dispute or doubt that he did. So the question remains, why was he then not suspended, but able to leave voluntarily? But the wider debate that I think you and I were having was about freedom of speech and where that begins and ends. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you seem to be suggesting that you don't think there is an end. In other words, you can say absolutely anything you want, to which I would say, well, I don't think you should be able to say to 32 million people on a platform that you want to make Jewish people your slaves and whip them. Do you?
Well, I think the thing is, when Elon took over X, he wanted to mirror it with the First Amendment. And the First Amendment allows a broad range of speech to be allowed. And the reality is, if we don't have free speech, we don't have a democracy. And that's literally from Elon Musk himself. Now, if we want to talk about unequal punishment on X, based on some people saying this and getting punished and people saying this and not getting punished, that's a whole other conversation. But I think if you're going to mirror the First Amendment With Twitter, then you need to allow that speech in.
Right, but look, on the first point about X's rules, he clearly transgressed pretty much every rule they have. I think that's unarguable. So it's for Elon to explain why, in the end, he was only censored, which he was, because he posted legal pornography. It seems to me extraordinary that legal pornography is deemed to be more offensive and more worthy of censorship than saying that you should make Jews your slaves and whip them. So let me bring in on that, Zuby. You and I have debated free speech many times, but on that specific point, I mean, do you view the publication of legal pornography on X as better or worse than what he said about making Jews slaves and whipping them?
If I'm being honest, I think it's all bad. I don't think that hardcore pornography should be on X. If I'm being honest, it's not on any other social media platform, and a big reason for that is because kids use these platforms. And if you've got that many followers and you start posting pornography, then naturally you're going to get some minors seeing it. And so that in itself is a problem. When it comes to inciting violence or calling for violence, I think it's fair to say that he did cross that line. I mean, if you're saying to whip a certain race or ethnic group of people, whether he's pretending, and you've got the wider context of everything he's been saying beyond that, you'd have to go through it post by post. I think a lot of them, vast majority of them, I'm not a fan of. I would condemn what he's saying, but I would support his right to free speech. But when it comes up to the point of calling for violence, which he did in that specific one that you brought up, then yeah, that's a clear violation. I don't run X. I'm not Elon. I'm not a moderator, so I'm not in charge of that. I'm a very staunch advocate for freedom of speech. Yeah. But yeah, there is a line.
It sounds like you share my view. I mean, bringing in the rabbi here. I mean, Rabbi, if I was Jewish, I'm not. I'm an Irish Catholic. If I was Jewish, I'd have been utterly sickened by the constant tirade of blatantly anti-Semitic garbage that was being spewed by Kanye West. How are you feeling?
First of all, you're an honorary Jew because you've really supported Israel through this war, and we're grateful, Pierce. Tolerating the intolerable is the liberalism of fools. You can speak about being a free speech absolutist, but there must be three exceptions: incitement to violence, commission of violence, and admission of violence. What's missing from this discussion is not that Kanye said that Jews should be whipped. It's that Kanye said that he has beaten women, and he said that women should be slapped. And his wife is in an abusive relationship. And Bianca Sensori's family, who live in Melbourne, Australia, have done nothing to rescue her. Are we talking about whether there should be pornography on X? There was pornography at the Grammys. Professional lip readers had him tell his wife, Bianca Sensori, take your mink coat off, and she is totally glassy-eyed. There is no free agency. She is an abused wife. She's an abused woman. How is the media becoming complicit in the absolute degradation and humiliation of this woman who he claims to have dominion over? And he says he slaps her around, and he says that he has practiced violence against women. Where is law enforcement? Why hasn't he been arrested? Why hasn't there been an investigation? Where is the rest of Hollywood and the Grammys to condemn violence against women? The two most targeted victim groups in history are Jews and women, and notice that Kanye, the ultimate bully, goes after both. And let me say one final thing. I utterly reject any belief that Kanye is sick. He is not. He is wicked. There's a big difference. He knows when to turn it off. At the Grammys, he was completely normal. He wasn't there and naked.
What he's doing, he's disrespectful to women. I promise you, no disrespect to the Caucasian woman, but if that was a strong, sophisticated Black woman, she would not have took her clothes off on that red carpet to satisfy Kanye chasing clout, which is fame or the spotlight. And I know Kanye. I was there the day he got signed at Rockefeller. I met his mother. I've been in his apartment. I know the humble Kanye that fame, once he's allegedly sold his soul to this game, he became this dark person. And what, like the rabbi said, what he's doing is very evil. I don't think that's freedom of speech, what he's doing. That can incite a riot. that can incite a hate attack on the Jewish community. And all he's doing it for is attention. There's nothing wrong with him. He's just mad because he's not relevant right now.
You know what? I agree. In fact, when I interviewed him at length over a year ago, you know, he categorically denied that he had any mental illness. And I also asked him if he had any regrets, because he'd been through a storm about abusing Jewish people before, about saying he wanted to go DEFCON 3, DEATH, DEFCON 3 on Jewish people. And I asked him if he regretted it. Let's see what he said. You've now changed what you wanted to say originally. My question for you is, do you now regret saying DEFCON 3 on Jewish people? Are you sorry you said that?
No.
I think it matters. You should be.
Absolutely not.
When you insult the Jewish people and say you're going DEFCON 3 on the Jewish people, that is as racist as anything you say you've been through and any pain that you've experienced. It's the same thing. Racism is racism. And you know that, I think, don't you?
Yeah, obviously. That's why I said it.
So you said it knowing it's racist?
Yes. I fought fire with fire.
Okay.
I'm not here to get hosed down.
At least that's
It's a
honest.
different type of freedom fighter. I will say I'm sorry for the people that I hurt with the DEFCON, the confusion that I call. I feel like I caused hurt and confusion. And I'm sorry for the families of the people that had nothing to do with the trauma that I had been through, and that I use my platform where you say hurt people, and I was hurt.
But the truth is, he wasn't sorry about the hurt. Otherwise, he wouldn't have carried on doing it for the last 3 days. And just to bring you back, Myron, if I can.
He's back to gaining attention, and I guarantee you there's some music coming down the pipeline.
Right.
That's why he's doing this.
Yeah, it's attention seeking for personal gain. Myron, let me bring you back in, because yesterday when you were getting into it with me about what you perceive to be censorship, you said, why the fuck are you calling for censorship when you have a show called Uncensored? The hypocrisy is incredible. But I was calling for a censorship of blatant, threatening violence in the language, abuse of Jewish people and of women, including trying to market a T-shirt based around an incident of criminal domestic abuse. That, I mean, surely you would agree with that censorship, wouldn't you?
No, I don't believe in censorship. I think, you know, context matters, and it's very obvious that, you know, he's doing this as a marketing plug. I mean, look, we're talking about it right now, so he's done a fantastic job. He had a commercial with the Super Bowl. He's the talk of the town right now. He's basically stolen the attention from Kendrick Lamar. Some people here are trying to say that Kendrick is more relevant than Kanye when it comes to hip hop, but he's stolen the attention. How? From really smart marketing. Now, with that said, I don't think anyone's ability to speak should ever be censored. Now, do I like everything that he says? No, but I'm going to fight for his ability to say it. I also think it's important to note that sarcasm and humor and making jokes is a part of what he was saying. Is he really going to run around and slap women? No. Obviously, he's being sarcastic. He's being funny. He's being edgy. And I think that's important because we need people like that pushing the envelope so we could protect free speech.
But he was literally trying to sell a T-shirt which had imagery of his friend Diddy, his new friend apparently, because they fell out, his friend Diddy involved in a criminal act of abuse against a woman. Literally, that's what he was doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's America.
Well, hang on one second. Just to be clear, though, Myron. Just to be clear, Myron, you think that was acceptable?
Again, capitalism is capitalism. Do I agree with it? Do I like it? Maybe not. However, I will support his ability to do it because he's obviously marketing things. He thinks maybe he has some dark humor that he wants to do where he thought that was funny. But the reality is that this is America and capitalism is a thing here.
So when Elon Musk, hang on one second. I'll come to all of you. So just to be clear, Myron, when Elon Musk replied yesterday to someone on X and said that he was now being censored for the legal pornography that he was posting, did you agree with that?
Well, I don't like pornography, but again, it is legal. There's a 3-part test in America with the Miller test to see if it suffices. And, you know, you can make the argument that, you know, it didn't cause any issues as far as...
So Elon was wrong to censor him?
With pornography?
Yes.
Well, again, I don't like porn. I don't think it should be on X at all, personally.
Okay, so you agree with censorship?
For pornography.
Right, but just to be clear, you agree with censorship?
No, I agree with pornography not being on X. I think it needs to be contained in a certain way.
But it's legal.
Gonna be on...
It was legal what he was posting?
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, I don't have to like it or agree with it.
But what about his free speech rights to post it if he wants to, if it's legal?
Well, that's a whole other thing. I think with X and pornography, there needs to be some kind of middle ground where, you know, if it's going to be on X, there needs to be a way where it's not necessarily on the main feed, but that's a whole other
So you agree with
discussion.
censorship, don't you, Myron? I mean, for all your chat
No,
on Twitter to
I
me yesterday, you actually agree with it.
To compare censorship of pornography to censorship on political speech or
so you think saying that you should treat Jews like slaves and whip them, or bitches deserve to be slapped, that is not, or try to sell a T-shirt of a domestic crime being committed, you think none of those things are worse than posting legal pornography?
Yeah, you know, I find it interesting that you're, you know, harping on this, but there's people that monetize murder and death all the time in the hip hop industry. There's people that
I don't agree with that either.
Well, I'm sorry?
I don't agree with that either.
Exactly. You don't have to agree with it for it to happen or for it to be allowed.
No, I'm curious why you think only the pornography, which was legal, to be clear, should be censored. You didn't think any of the other stuff should be. What's the difference?
Pornography and political speech? Completely different.
No, pornography and saying that Jews should be whipped and treated as slaves.
Well, that's speech. I mean, if he wants to say that, you know what I mean? I don't have to agree with it, but I think if he wants to say that, he should be able to say that. I mean,
so again, consenting adults having sex and posting that is not acceptable, but treating Jews or saying Jews should be slaves and be whipped, that is acceptable for you.
Speech, you cannot conflate speech with pornography, Pierce.
Why
I see
not?
what you're trying to do.
Why not?
They're not the same whatsoever.
Why aren't they the same thing?
No, they're not.
Why not?
No,
Explain why the difference.
Because in order to allow speech in, you need to allow all speech in so that people can come in and be able to have ideas, right? We need to get
What's
into
wrong
the
with people
marketplace.
having sex?
But if you're going to go ahead and say, oh, yeah, let's go ahead and conflate that with pornography, well, there's nothing really to debate there, any real discourse that could be had with pornography of watching people have sex. It's not the same whatsoever. And to try to conflate the two is ridiculous.
Why? One is legal and the other one is actually illegal. To treat people like slaves and whip them would be illegal. Actually, pornography, legal pornography, is legal.
No, that's
so you're in favour of censoring something that's legal, but you're not in favour of censoring something that's illegal. I find that fascinating.
Yeah. Him saying that is actually protected under the First Amendment. Hate speech is protected under.
That's the point. It's not. You don't even know. You don't know enough about your own First Amendment. I seem to know more than you. Although, just to be clear, I have a house in America. When I come to America, like anyone who comes to America, you are automatically protected by the First Amendment as well, right? So I know a lot about the First Amendment. The First Amendment actually bans a lot of things, including incitement to violence, incitement to violent hatred.
Anyone that was looking at his tweets, right? Anyone that was looking at his tweets that has any level of common sense understands that it's dark humor, understands he's trolling, it's marketing. He doesn't really mean
nothing funny about it at all. No. Let me bring in Zuby. You've been watching very intently, Zuby. I mean, look, I think what we've just established with Myron, with respect to him, is that when you try and be a free speech absolutist, it gets very complicated very quickly. Because I can't for the life of me, and maybe you can articulate it better, but I can't for the life of me understand why Elon Musk, with his action yesterday, censors the legal pornography. And by the way, I agree with him. He should have done that. But that he doesn't censor any of the blatantly illegal things that Kanye was spewing, notably the fact that you should treat Jews like slaves and whip them. That is actually a crime in America to encourage people to do that, to incite that level of... Well, hang on, Myron, I'm going to Zuby here. It seems to me that once you get into absolutism about this, it just gets complicated very fast.
Yeah, you're right. Look, it does get complicated. And the reality is that different people have different lines. Different nations have different lines. Every single country has different laws when it comes to freedom of speech, freedom of expression, even things that are graphic, visual things like pornography and so on. Some people will say that falls under freedom of speech. Some people will say that it doesn't. Going beyond that, though, this is all happening on a platform, and social media platforms have the right to set their boundaries where they want the boundaries to be. On Facebook and YouTube, for example, you absolutely cannot post pornography in any form. However, on X/Twitter, for whatever reason, throughout its entire history, they have allowed that. A lot of people oppose it, but for whatever reason, they let that go. So the truth is, ultimately, we can discuss.
That's the trash right there. Going leads outside to a dumpster. And right here, it's like trash and everything. It separates it, and then it blows air, like it'll blow it like an air thing that reads it. I feel like a mail and clothes. And it's like separates the white. There's shit like that as well. These like emergencies right here, like little emergency things, shut down, this whole little area, go crazy. These as well right here. These emergency lights, turn off the lights and shit. If this a power emergency, anything ever happen, I just hit that button and it'll. And then in the computer, it'll let them know. In the computer, it'll let them know what area was shut down, what's going on. So you see like a maze up in here, man. Yeah, this more trash too, where trash goes. Like it separates it. The machine right here reads it. That's the office right there. I think we're just running cans right now. I mean plastic right now. I think we got plastic right now. See all that plastic over there? We're in the plastic right now. This is where our money at. You know, plastic, water bottles and shit. Like water bottles and shit like that. That's where our money at. Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper, places like that, they invest. You know, and like I say, like you have to separate the white from the clear, because when they break it down and put it through them, when it get cut up into little dust particles, the white can't be in there and mess up the whole thing. So yeah, man, it's like a maze, man. This shit crazy. Every time I look at this shit, good investment though. I'm gonna be honest. It's good.